Hey besties, you've got Ellen here, and I'm going to get you started on the slow along for R10176 Simplicity. To make a really nice, comfortable caftan, we're going to be going through B, which is short sleeved slash sleeveless. It has a generous room, it's really cozy, comfy, and I feel like it's a great starter project. It's one of the first garments that I successfully made, and it doesn't have a lot of tailoring. It really doesn't have tailoring, no darts, anything like that. Um, so if you don't measure it perfectly, if something goes a little bit wrong, you will still have something that you really enjoy that you can wear or you can give someone and they will love it. First of all, is just understanding what the heck this all means. And I feel like this instruction will be helpful not just for this slow long, but for any time that you are using a pattern from Simplicity, Vogue, McCall's, there's one other, they're all under the same company right now. And I feel like the way that the patterns in the back of the envelopes are written are kind of confusing and cryptic. Even this here is actually something that we need to read. I've bought this pattern twice, and I didn't even notice the black part until I was getting ready for the slow along and realized that it actually had some relevant information in there. So let's get started. The first thing that you will see on the back of the envelope here is that it says 8 pieces. FYI, there are 8 pieces, 8 pattern pieces contained within this envelope, and they are relevant to all of, to four different caftans. So you will only be using 4 pieces for part B. In fact, it's really 3, because one of the pieces is actually a guide or sort of a measure for the elastic that you're going to need. So it's sort of like you follow the guide, and you'll know how much elastic to use around the neckline. Let's start from the top. So it says Mrs. Knit Caftans. I don't know how they decide what's Mrs. and what's whatever else. I would say anyone 12 and over would probably fit into this really well. I am 5'1". I don't need a lot of height. I end up hemming right from the pattern, but basically anybody can wear this. Let's go to fabrics. Sized for stretch knits only: bamboo knit, ITY knit, jersey, and modal knit. So there are a couple of things just to know. ITY stands for interlock twist yarn. It's a knit fabric. It does have some good stretch and drape, just like the modal. The ITY and the modal are going to be a little bit slippery to work with, so I would suggest that you have something like this. This is still in the roll, but it's sort of like a tissue paper, and this is something that's water soluble. It's something that you put under a fabric that's really slippery to work with, so that when you're sewing it, it doesn't slip and slide everywhere and end up with like really janky stitches. I haven't opened this yet, but yeah, think about like the dryer sheet. If you put in those dryer sheets that smell really good, it's like the consistency of that. So whatever fabric you're working with, if it's slippery, putting something under it, even if it's tissue paper, is really good. A while ago, I experimented with all of these different things that you could put under a fabric to stabilize it, including construction paper, printer paper, and painter's tape. For whatever reason, I thought that was a great idea. And now I have a nightgown that's in progress with tape on it that I can't remove. So my friend mentioned this to me. I had no idea it existed. So I ordered this from Wawak. I'll put the information up for you. Buy it wherever you prefer. I find that Wawak has really good prices for a lot of different items, and if you order a bunch of stuff, you get free shipping. So that's that. My advice would be just find a stretchy fabric. If you see the caftan behind me here, this blue one, I showed it in another video. It's something that is almost done. It's for my mother-in-law. It's a poly fabric of some sort. It's not stretchy. I have made 2 caftans actually that do not have stretchy fabric. but I've done this enough times that I know how it's going to fit and that it will work out. My advice to you would be try something stretchy. It'll be a great learning lesson, and it'll most likely fit you, because a little bit of stretch and a little bit of ease, it will just make it really comfortable. And again, maybe you didn't measure it perfectly right the first time. Who cares? You're still going to have a super cozy caftan. All right. Going back to fabrics for a moment. It also says, see, pick a knit rule. Pick a knit rule. What the heck is that? That is this little thing that you probably won't be able to read. It says, for this pattern, 4 inches or 10 centimeters of knit fabric must stretch crosswise from here to here. That's what it says. BTW, this is the only place in all of this pattern where centimeters is listed. Everything else is all inches, which is kind of unfortunate, but I guess it is what it is. So what they're saying here is that this black line, this black border thingy, is 4 inches. And you need to put a fabric here and see if you're able to stretch it from this part to this part without a ton of effort. That means that your fabric is the correct amount of stretch, and we're going to try it out. I'm going to be using this chicken fabric, which won't be a surprise to people who know me. We are a chicken family. About 2 years ago, my son went on some kind of a chicken getting campaign, made a great case. We got chickens and we love them. So chicken artwork, chicken fabrics, chicken things, every now and then just seem to fit into our lives. So here's the pick a knit in action, guys. Let's do it here. So say I've got 4 inches of the fabric up here, right? 4 inches here to here. It's not going to be easy to see because the arrows are small. But essentially, I want to make sure that this part stretches from here to here to that other arrow with relative ease, and it does, so that works. That's the pick a knit rule. It feels kind of goofy to me, but now you know what it is. You can listen to it, you can ignore it, whatever. So another thing before we go into the next step, look here, you see A and B. What you're seeing here, B, this half, this half, that's what we're making. Why am I bringing this to your attention? It's tiny, it's easy to miss, and literally you just get to see half the caftan. When you're looking at these patterns, everything's really small and it's easy to miss stuff. So one thing I've learned is that you really have to use your eagle eyes, which I'm 46 now. It's not like my eagle eyes are getting better, but I have learned that I need to pay a little bit more attention to detail. And as an aside, I feel like sewing has actually been really helpful for me in my paid work. As a market researcher in life sciences, I do qualitative research. Knowing sometimes that I need to really focus in on something, like hyper focus in on something for a moment or two, look at things a little bit more deeply, maybe a little bit differently, has been helpful. So you know, I'm going to sing the praises of sewing and how it can help you in your life. But I do think that sometimes using those eagle eyes, where otherwise you might have just glossed over it, can be really helpful. Moving on. Next is notions. What the heck's a notion? It's an accessory. Why do they call it a notion? They've probably been calling it notion for 100 years plus, and that's just what they keep calling it. So, I'm not going to make a joke. Anyways, so notions that you need. Thread and 1/4 inch wide elastic. It says that for caftans A and B, you're going to need 7/8 of a yard of 1/4 inch elastic. And for caftan C and D, you're going to need a yard. My advice is that as a sewist, you're going to use lots of elastic. You can get a little bit of it from Joann Fabric or Amazon or whatever. If you're going to use a lot of it, again, I mentioned Wall Walk before. I found that they have really good quality stuff, And this is made in Italy. It's just lovely, and I have a larger quantity of it, and overall paid less money. This is not a fourth of an inch, by the way. This is 3/8 of an inch, and I use this in the blue caftan behind me for my mother-in-law, and I love it. So if you don't have a fourth of an inch, if you have 3/8 of an inch, we're just going to make a slightly bigger neckline. We'll get to that later, but have some elastic on hand. Another thing I would mention that is not mentioned here are needles. So have some fresh needles on hand, such as a stretch needles. This is Smets. So I use I have a Burnett back there. My machine is a Burnett, and Smets are totally, they totally work fine. This is a Jersey one. Thank you, Toni from So Lounge, who said that you can use Smets. They work with everything and they're less expensive. So when you have a nice expensive machine, and mine's refurbished, I love it, which means I bought it used. I like to take great care of it. And these needles are perfectly fine, and the Burnett or Bernina brand are going to be more expensive. So one more thing that they do mention, that's mentioned in the instructions, that's a notion that you can use, that's not mentioned on the envelope, is some reinforcement for the shoulder, just the shoulder seams. So have something like bias tape there, or some kind of, or even this elastic. Essentially, the shoulder is the area where there's going to be a lot of stretch, because you're going to have fabric hanging down from the front and the back, and it's just going to get some wear and tear. So we're going to have a little bit of elastic on hand. Why don't we just do that, because we have this. We can talk about alternatives if you don't have that. It's not a big deal. My point is, this is not exhaustive, and I think in general, the lesson learned, the takeaway is that this will have some information, but it's not going to have all of the information that you need when you buy a pattern like this. Even if it says it's very easy, it was made for someone who has had a lot more sewing lessons than probably you or I had at the point that we picked this up. All right, so we've gone through notions. Make sure you have some thread. Have a couple of spools of thread. I'm going to use some off-white, some cream color. If you have something, let's say like dark purple or dark blue, and you can't find the exact match, the advice is to go with a thread that's slightly lighter than darker. But also thread can be a cool visual kind of accessory if you are feeling bold, and say you have a red, you're sewing something red. Maybe you can have use white thread or something that contrasts. That can always be kind of neat. Although as a newer sewist, as a beginner, I sort of like to have my thread sort of hide. I like to camouflage it in the background, because maybe I've done an extra row or two, or maybe my stitching doesn't look fantastic, so I like to kind of camouflage it. But we'll definitely talk about certain times where showing a little bit of the stitching, or the maybe a contrasting color stitch, can be pretty awesome. Moving on. Body measurements. There are a couple different measurements here. Let's talk about that. So they mentioned bust, waist, hip, which they say 8 inches below waist, and back to neck waist. So what I'm going to do is pull up part of this 1956 Singer sewing book. I'm going to include this here for you. It's from 1956. I don't think Singer's going to come after me, but I'm going to show you, according to that chart, where you should be measuring. Take your time on this, guys. Let me know if you're having any questions or problems doing this. Pause it and refer back to it as much as you need. Let's say your bust is would kind of put you in a larger size bracket than your waist or your hip. Go with whatever's largest for this. So my bust is larger than, I would say, the back to neck waist measurement, or the hip. I'll go with the bust. I end up being a medium. Um, it's best to go with the largest measurement for this. There are going to be garments where something might be a little bit more fitted, and maybe the bodice, the front part, is going to be one size larger for me than the back part, and we can do a little mix and match with the pattern. But for this, let's just stick with the with one size, and I'll be going with a medium. It does show sizes XX small to XXL. It also shows the US sizes 4 to 26 and the European sizes that go from 30 to 52. It's great that they have all of these different sizes as a reference. If you're selling these, if you're maybe giving it to a friend and you know your friend's typically a size 6 to an 8, great. But if you're doing this for yourself and as a sewist, you're able to, you're putting this together yourself and you're making it custom, go with the measurements. Moving on. You're going to see 4 rows. It says A caftan, B caftan, C caftan, and D caftan. Obviously, we're going with B. So let's go to that row now. You'll see it says 60 inches, asterisk, asterisk. So 60, quote. What does the 60 quote mean? It means 60 inches. And that refers to the fact that a lot of times when you buy fabric by the yard, it will be 60 inches across or horizontally. Sometimes you'll get a pattern where it will show the 60 inches and then 45. This is for a more narrow yardage. This is 60 all around. And then what does this asterisk? Asterisk mean? If you go to the very bottom of the instruction here, there's a legend. 1 star means without nap, 2 stars with nap, and 3 stars with or without nap. What the hell is nap? That is a pattern that requires continuous, like a continuous lineup. So say you have a plaid where, you know, if you're using one piece for the, you know, the arm, and then you're attaching another piece, you really want to line it up and make sure that it's matching and that it doesn't look all wonky with the lineup. So that would be nap. Nap means that there is a specific kind of way that you're going to need to line it up, because otherwise it's going to look wonky. This pattern says with nap, which is interesting because we're not really lining anything up to perfection, because there's going to be one big front piece, one big back piece that you're going to attach together at the shoulders, and then there's going to be sort of a small like arm band. So I'll talk about this in more detail as we're putting it together. So if what I said just now doesn't make sense, don't worry about it. Long story short, we're not going to need to do any heavy duty matching up. Don't worry about getting a ton of extra fabric. So we've seen the B part, 60 inches. The reason for this row, the whole purpose here is to show you how much yardage you're going to need. Again, if you're not American, if you're not using the metric, if you're using the metric system, which is obviously more accurate, apologies for this. As a medium, I'm going to need 3 1/4 yards. In fact, I think regardless of the size, unless my eyesight is off here, you're basically going to need like 3 1/2, somewhere between 3 and I can't even read it. It's so small. I think it's about 3 1/8 to 3 3/8. So you're going to need up to 3 1/2 yards. That's it. That's all you need to know. I got this as dead stock, meaning this was like an overflow of fabric. Maybe the company ordered too much or decided to discontinue the pattern. There was 3 1/2 yards left. It was marked down, so I got 3 1/2 yards. Perfect. I might have extra. I might make an eye mask or something, or a headband or a scrunchie. I love taking the a little bit of extra fabric and doing something with it. Getting to the bottom here, it says finished garments. And it's showing more sizing. So the bottom part, the measurements that it's showing are the amount, this is how the garment itself is going to measure on your body. So let's say you're a medium, you're using a medium, or you're going to make a medium-sized caftan, and your bust is somewhere between 36 to 38 inches. That means the finished product, the garment, is going to have 51 and a half inches of fabric. That means you're going to have about 13 inches of ease. Ease is the amount of, it's really what it sounds like, the amount of sort of extra fabric that there's going to be so that you can have movement, right? If everything was skin tight, like, your yoga clothes or, anything that's spandex, right? There's not a lot of ease. There might be some stretch, but with this, you're going to have, that a little bit of bagginess, a little bit of... there will be stretch because we're using a knit with some stretch, but there's also going to be, that extra fabric, that flowiness to the garment. But that's what the bottom part is. If you're going to use just one measurement, knowing that, up top they talk about body measurements and then finished garment measurements, I've been advised that the finished garment measurement is what you should look at if you're only going to look at one type of measurement. So that's it, guys. Let's get our fabric ready. Let's get our notion/accessories ready. And we're going to get started next on the slow along. Stay tuned, guys. I'm going to put this video together ASAP.